I
Merci.
want to begin by getting your reaction. Were you surprised that Israel launched these strikes? And what does this mean, obviously, for the ceasefire?
Well, I wasn't completely surprised because in the last few days, what we've seen is a breakdown of talks about the ceasefire. We've also seen that Hamas and United States have been actually raising the rhetoric about what's going on. So, unfortunately, this is was coming. And now the bad news is for Gazans, it looks like the war has restarted, and it is going to be bad news for the Gazans and also for the hostages. Well, as long as they're still alive, it's good because then Hamas has got a bargaining chip to negotiate some sort of settlement. But their lives are now in more jeopardy than ever have been because of what's going on right now on the ground.
Do you think that this was a one-off, or do you see ground troops moving back in?
I actually think ground troops are going to be moving back in. There has been a call up of a number of soldiers. There are indications that something this weekend is going to happen. And, everything that the Israeli prime minister has been saying and what Hamas has not been doing just is indicative that we're going to see ground operations and the war recommence probably sooner than later.
And humanitarian aid, will that continue to flow, or do you see that stalling again?
I see humanitarian aid being stopped dead in its tracks just to put pressure on Hamas to come back to the negotiating tables. But quite frankly, I think Israel, supported by what Donald Trump is saying now, is just going to go in and try to, quote unquote, finish this off.
So the big question is then, what does this mean for the remaining hostages still alive?
I think that there is still value for Hamas to keep them alive because that's their only bargaining chip for negotiating anything that comes out of this. But as long as Israel keeps prosecuting operations on the ground, like what we saw yesterday and what's going on today and probably this weekend, it's going to make those negotiations even more and more difficult, which, at some stage in the game, it actually really puts into jeopardy the lives of those hostages who are still alive, and just makes it even worse for the families. So there's not good news for Gazans. It's not good news for the hostages. And unfortunately, Israel just looks like it's now determined just to finish off this war with Hamas.
Major General David Fraser, he is our military analyst at CTV. Thank you so much for joining us.